Hello, welcome to the first of the lecture series under the GRE Prep course. Today we are going to go over what GRE entails, how you should prepare for the test, and some test-taking strategies for the GRE revised test. Before that, let me tell you who Achievers League USA is and what we do. Achievers League USA is an educational organization with the mission of enriching scientific minds worldwide. We provide career counseling services to high school and college students. We help students to write their essays and statements for graduate school applications, residency applications, prepare other application documents such as the CV, resume, cover letters, reference letters. We also provide counseling for higher education and help students with research projects. In addition, we provide contract writing services for research and review articles and help with immigration related document preparation. Secondly, we provide specialized courses for students that include an advanced course on scientific writing, an advanced research methods course, a course on management of clinical trials, a foundation course in parent drafting, and an advanced course in biostatistics and research. So GRE, or the Graduate Record Examination, is a standardized test that is taken by students all over the world applying to postgraduate courses in the US and some other countries. GRE is offered by the Educational Testing Service, or ETS, that also offers other tests like the TOEFL and HiSET. ETS.org is the website where you will go and register for the GRE test. It also has a lot of information about the types of questions that you will encounter in the GRE. It also has a lot of sample questions and sample practice tests that you can attempt before you go for the actual test. Here is the schedule for the lecture series that will go on from May 15th to December 11th. Today we are going over the test-taking strategies. The next two lectures will be an introduction to the verbal and quantitative reasoning section, followed by an in-depth discussion of these two sections. This will be followed by a discussion of the analytical reasoning section, also called the AWA. We will discuss some tips and tricks to score high in the AWA section. This will be followed by preparation of application documents that will include CV, a curriculum vitae, letter of recommendation, statements of purpose, and how to shortlist universities. We will have two Q&A sessions where we will address all your questions. So accumulate as many questions as you will have. And we will conclude with how to follow up and how to interview with professors. There are three sections of GRE. These include verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and analytical reasoning. Verbal reasoning consists of three types of questions. These can be reading comprehension questions, sentence equivalence questions, or text completions. There will be two sets of 25 questions each, and you get 35 minutes per set. Quantitative reasoning has four types of questions. These include the quantitative comparison questions, numeric entry, multiple choice questions with one answer, or multiple choice questions with two or more answers. Again, there will be two sets of 25 questions each, but you get 40 minutes per set. The analytical reasoning comprises of two questions. You're supposed to write an issue and an argument, and you get 30 minutes per question. So let's discuss the verbal reasoning first. Reading comprehension is one of the categories that you will encounter in verbal reasoning section. You'll be given a passage, which will be followed by 2 to 6 questions about the passage. These passages can be drawn from any of these areas. It can be physical sciences, biological sciences, social sciences, arts or humanities, or just material found in books and periodicals, both academic and non-academic. About half of the questions on the test will be based on these passages. As I mentioned, one passage can have 1 to 6 questions. These questions can be asking you about meaning of a particular word or evidence that might support or weaken points made in the passage. Many questions are standard multiple choice questions with a single correct answer. However, there can be questions that ask you to select multiple correct answers. Questions can also be about selecting a specific sentence from the passage. Let's take a look at how to approach a reading comprehension question. Let's read this passage together. The massive influx of women cyclists, making up at least a third of the total market, was perhaps the most striking and profound social consequence of the mid-1890s cycling boom. Although the new improved bicycle had appealed immediately to a few privileged women, its impact would have been modest had it not attracted a greater cross-section of the female population. It soon became apparent that many of these pioneer women bicyclists had not taken up the sport as an idle pastime. Rather, they saw cycling as a noble cause to be promoted among all women as a means to improve the general female condition. Not only would cycling encourage healthy outdoor exercise, they reasoned, it would also hasten long overdue dress reform. To feminists, the bicycle affirmed nothing less than the dignity and equality of women. Once you go through a reading comprehension passage, summarize it in 2 sentences in your head. Now, this passage can, for example, be summarized as: the passage discusses the widespread popularity of bicycling among women in the 1890s and mentions several reasons why this activity was seen as beneficial for women. Now, one of the questions that can be asked about the passage is: which of the following statements among women cyclists is supported by the passage? Select all that apply. Now, choice A mentions the newly improved bicycle of the mid-1890s appealed mostly to women in a privileged position. Now, we know that is not true because the second sentence of the passage mentions that it had an impact on a greater cross-section of the female population. This makes choice A incorrect. Choice B says the great majority of women in the mid-1890s considered cycling as an idle pastime. We know that is not true because the next sentence says it soon became apparent that many of these pioneer women bicyclists had not taken up the sport as an idle pastime. So choice B is also incorrect. Leaving us with choice C, let's confirm if it's true or not. Women bicyclists promoted cycling as a healthy form of outdoor exercise. Yes, that is true because the second last sentence of the passage says that not only would cycling encourage healthy outdoor exercise, it would also hasten long overdue dress reform. So choice C is correct. Another question that can be asked about this passage is, which of the following does the passage suggest about pioneer women cyclists? Select all that apply. Choice A. They saw cycling as a means to promote the advancement of women. Yes, choice A is correct because at one point in the passage, they say pioneer women cyclists saw cycling as a means to improve the general female condition. Choice B says they argued that cycling would encourage women to get involved in a variety of noble causes. That is not necessarily true because although the passage states they saw cycling as a noble cause to be promoted among all women as a means to improve the general female condition, nowhere in the passage do they mention the variety of noble causes. So choice B is incorrect. Choice C is They provided several reasons for a cross-section of the female population to use the bicycle. Yes, that is true, because they mentioned that not only would cycling encourage healthy outdoor exercise, it would also hasten long overdue dress reform. So yes, choice A and C are correct. So this is one of the types of questions where there is more than one answer, more than one correct answer. The second type of question in verbal reasoning is the sentence equivalence question. Sentence equivalence questions consist of a single sentence with one blank with 6 answer choices. You will be asked to select 2 of the answer choices and there is no credit given for one correct answer. So both the answers have to be correct in order to secure full points. These 2 answer choices will have the same meaning because it's one blank and they have to be synonyms to be correct. These questions are marked with square boxes besides the answer choices, unlike the circles or the ovals for the other questions. Sentence equivalence questions test your ability to reach a conclusion about how a sentence or a passage must be completed on the basis of partial information. Let's take a look at an example of a sentence equivalence question. Retrofitted with stabilizing devices, some of which blank its aesthetics, the bridge has been reopened, no longer prone to excessive swaying, but not quite the breathtaking structure it originally was. Now there are 6 answer choices in a square box, which implies that this is a sentence equivalence question. And the sentence itself implies that although the bridge has become stronger, not prone to excessive swaying or waving, its breathtaking structure is missing now. The stabilizing devices have somehow negatively affected the previous good looks of this bridge. So what are the 2 choices that are synonyms and they mean reduce in quality? Impair, yes, impair means reducing in quality. Resist, resist might be a good fit, but not as good as impair. Improve, enhance, and restore are exactly the opposite of what we're looking for. Compromise is another word that fits really good in this sentence. So the correct answer is impair and compromise, choice A and F. The third type of questions that you'll see on verbal reasoning section are text completion questions. So skilled readers have an attitude of interpretation, evaluation, and reasoning from what they have read to create a picture of the entire scenario. Text completion questions test this ability by omitting crucial words from passages or sentences and then asking the test taker to use the remaining information in the passage to fill the blanks and create a coherent, meaningful sentence or passage. The structure of a text completion question is a passage that can be anywhere from 1 to 5 sentences, and there can be 1 to 3 blanks in the questions. There will be 3 answer choices per blank. The answer choices for different blanks function independently. So selecting one answer choice for a blank does not affect what answer choices you can select for another blank. There is a single correct answer for each blank and you will not get partial credit. So all 3 blanks have to be correct in case there are 3 blanks in a question. Let's take a look at a text completion question. This composer has never courted popularity. Her rugged modernism seems to defy rather than to blank the audience. So the first part of the sentence means that the composer has never sought popularity. And the second part mentions that due to her rugged modernism, she seems to defy the audience rather than blank. So the blank will contain a word that is opposite of defy. The choices are ignore, discount, woo, teach, and cow. Ignore, discount, teach, and cow do not fit in this context. The meaning of woo is to gain popularity or gather popularity, and therefore the correct answer is choice C, woo. Here is an example of a text completion question with 3 blanks. So there are 9 answer choices in total and 3 correct answers. It is refreshing to read a book about our planet by an author who does not allow facts to be blank by politics. Well aware of the political disputes about the effects of human activities on climate and biodiversity, this author does not permit them to blank his comprehensive description of what we know about our biosphere. He emphasizes the enormous gaps in our knowledge, the sparseness of our observations, and the blank, calling attention to the many aspects of planetary evolution that must be better understood before we can accurately diagnose the condition of our planet. So how do you approach to answer this kind of a question? Do not merely try to consider each possible combination of answers because that will take you too long to answer the question. So read through the passage to get an overall sense of it and identify words that seem, particularly significant, either because they emphasize the structure of the passage, like although or moreover, or because they are central to understanding what the passage is about. And then try to fill in the blank with words or phrases that seem to complete the sentence. And then see if similar words are offered among the answer choices. Do not assume that the first blank is the one that should be filled first. Maybe the last blank will be easier to fill first, and then you can work your way backwards. When you have made selection for each blank, check to make sure that the passage is logical, grammatically correct, and coherent. In this case, the overall tone of the passage is complimentary. To understand what the author of the book is being complimented on, let's focus on the second blank. Let's determine a word that indicates what the author is being praised for not permitting. So the author does not let political disputes affect his comprehensive description of what we know about our biosphere. So the word that fits is obscure. So this author does not permit them to obscure his comprehensive description. Enhance and underscore will not fit here. Enhance means to increase, and underscore means to emphasize or stress upon something. So once we fit obscure, choosing obscure now clarifies the answer for the first blank. It's refreshing to read a book about our planet by an author who does not allow facts to be overshadowed by politics. Invalidated and illuminated do not fit the context. So overshadowed is the correct answer for blank 1. Now it's interesting to note that trying to answer the first blank by itself is very hard without knowing what the second blank will fit. Filling obscure made it easy to select overshadowed for the first blank. Now let's look at the third blank. The third blank requires a phrase that matches with enormous gaps and sparseness of our observations. The best choice that fits the third blank is superficiality of our theories. Now let's read the whole sentence and see if it makes sense. It is refreshing to read a book about our planet by an author who does not allow facts to be overshadowed by politics. Well aware of the political disputes about the effects of human activities on climate and biodiversity, this author does not permit them to obscure his comprehensive description of what we know about our biosphere. He emphasizes the enormous gaps in our knowledge, the sparseness of our observations, and the superficiality of our theories, calling attention to the many aspects of planetary evolution that must be better understood before we can accurately diagnose the condition of our planet. Makes sense? Great. So how to improve your verbal reasoning score? Read, read, and read as much as possible. You should read 2 challenging articles with a complex vocabulary every day. This will increase your realm of knowledge, plus it will increase your vocabulary. Identify all the words in those articles that you do not know the meaning of and look up the meanings in the dictionary. Then make your own sentences using those words. Identify your weak area. If you are not good at just reading comprehension, then target that. If you're not good at sentence equivalence, then you target that. When you identify the roots in a word, it's much easier to gauge word meanings. If you would like more information about identifying roots, I can pass on some test material to you where you can learn how to use the root of a word to guess the meaning. I cannot stress this enough, but practice, practice, practice. They say practice makes a man perfect. It is true. And finally, know the meanings of all the high frequency words. High frequency words are a set of words that constantly appear on the GRE test over and over. And there is a high chance that you will see those words. So it's better to go prepared knowing the meanings of the words than not. I can send you a list of the high frequency words if you would like that, and learn them and make sentences out of them. Moving on, the second section of GRE is the quantitative reasoning section. The 2 sets of 25 questions each, and you get 40 minutes per section. Let's look at this section in some detail. So what kind of questions will you see in quantitative reasoning section? So here is sort of a syllabus. It's not a set syllabus, but you should practice and know all these topics. You have arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. All the subheadings are listed under there, so you should learn the concept and practice questions for each of these concepts. Now, 2 assumptions are made on the GRE quantitative reasoning section. 1, all numbers used are real numbers. What is a real number? Numbers that can be found on a number line, that includes all rational and irrational numbers, are real numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, minus 2, minus 4, minus 6, 3 by 7, 4 by 10, 99 by 101, under root of 5, under root of 25, under root of 450, all these numbers are real numbers. Is 5i a real number? No, it's not. It's a complex number. It has a real number component, which is 5, and an imaginary component, I, in it. You will not see questions with complex numbers on the GRE quantitative reasoning section. Second assumption is geometric figures are not necessarily drawn to scale. If you look at the triangle on the left, it looks like an equilateral triangle, meaning it looks like it has equal side lengths. But if you read the side lengths given, they are 10, 2, and 5. Clearly, this triangle is not drawn to scale. So make sure you draw a rough figure to scale if the question asks for it while answering it. On the right, it looks like a rectangle, but if you read the measurements of the side lengths, it says 5 centimeters each. That clearly is a square, but it's drawn as a rectangle to confuse you. So make sure you do not believe what is drawn, because it's not drawn to scale. The first kind of question that you'll see in this section are the quantitative comparison questions. They'll ask you to compare 2 quantities, quantity A and B, and then determine which of the following statements describes this comparison. Quantity A is greater, quantity B is greater. The two quantities are equal. The relationship cannot be determined from the information given. So it will be these four choices that will always be the same choices for quantitative comparison questions. Only the question will change. Let's take a look at an example. Quantity A is defined as the least prime number greater than 24. Quantity B is defined as the greatest prime number less than 28. Let's consider least prime number greater than 24. 25, not a prime number. 26, not a prime number. 27, not a prime number. 28, it's also not a prime number. But 29 is a prime number. The answer for quantity A is 29. For quantity B, integers less than 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, not prime numbers. 23, yes, it's a prime number. So quantity B is 23. Quantity A is 29. Which one is larger? Quantity A is greater. So the correct answer is choice A. Quantity A is greater. The second type of questions that you'll see on quantitative reasoning section are numeric entry questions. They'll ask you to enter your answer as an integer or a decimal in an answer box. You can enter it as a fraction if you see two separate boxes, one for the numerator, one for the denominator. Let's take a look at an example. This is how a typical numeric entry question will look like. A merchant made a profit of $5 on the sale of a sweater that cost the merchant $15. What is the profit expressed as a percent of the merchant's cost? Give your answer to the nearest whole percent. Make sure you read the entire question. Sometimes it will ask you for the nearest whole percent. Sometimes it will ask you decimals. So you need to make sure you are answering the right way. In this case, it's asking for a nearest whole percent. The percentage profit is 5 over 15 into 100, 33.3%. What is the nearest whole percent? It's 33%. So you enter 33 in that box. That's how you answer a numeric entry questions. These are a little harder if you don't know how to solve the question because there is no multiple choice given in the question. The third type of question is multiple choice questions with one answer choice. Let's take a look at an example. A certain jar contains 60 jelly beans, 22 white, 18 green, 11 yellow, 5 red, and 4 purple. If a jelly bean is to be chosen at random, what is the probability that the jelly bean will be neither red nor purple? Now there are 5 red and 4 purple beans in the jar. There are 51 that are neither red or purple. So you subtract red and purple from the total number of beans, which was 60. 60 minus 5 minus 4 is 51. So probability of selecting something that's not red or purple is 51 over 60. The choices are given in decimals. So you need to convert 51 over 60 into decimals. This fraction is equal to 0.85 and the correct answer is choice D. Simple enough. This is a typical multiple choice questions that you see everywhere with one correct answer. The fourth kind of question that you will see on quantitative reasoning are multiple choice questions with one or more answers. These questions will ask you to select one or more answer choices from a list of choices. Now, the tricky part is you don't know how many answers are correct. It can be one correct answer up to 5, 6, 7. It entirely depends on the question. So the question may not specify this number of correct answers. These questions are marked with square boxes besides the answer choices, not circles or ovals. just like sentence equivalence questions in the verbal reasoning. Let's take a look at an example. The question says, which two of the following numbers have a product that is between 1 and 0? Indicate both of these numbers. Notice, and the answer choices are accompanied by a square box, and the question specifies exactly how many answers have to be selected. So that makes the job easier. For this question, you have to select a pair of answer choices because it's a product between the two numbers. Now, if you do all the combinations and multiply different numbers, the correct answer choices come out to be B and C, 10 and 2 to the power 4. This was an example where the number of answer choices are specified. Let's look at an example of multiple choice question with one or more answer in which the question does not specify the number of correct answers. The circle graph above shows the distribution of 200,000 physicians by specialty. Which of the following sectors of the circle graph represent more than 40,000 physicians? Indicate all such sectors. Now, this type of question can have one correct answer or all 5 choices can be correct. So how to approach this problem? Instead of going through each of the specialty and calculating the number of physicians in each of them, a less time-consuming way to solve this problem is to calculate what percent of 200,000 is 40,000. That number is 20%. So 40,000 is 20% of 200,000. Any specialty that has a number greater than 20% is the correct answer. So we see pediatrics is 21%, internal medicine is 25%, and surgery is 24%. All those choices are correct. So choices A, B, and C are correct. If you would like to confirm, you can calculate the individual percentages and confirm the answer. Last but not the least, the third section of the GRE is the analytical reasoning section. It comprises of writing an issue and an argument, and you get 30 minutes per question. The analytical reasoning section is a measure of your critical thinking and analytical writing skills. It tests your ability to support complex ideas, to read and evaluate arguments, and to maintain a focused and coherent discussion in your writing. It does not assess your general knowledge. And as I mentioned, analytical writing consists of a 30-minute analyze an issue task and a 30-minute analyze an argument task. The issue task presents an opinion on an issue of broad interest, followed by specific instructions on how to respond to that issue. You read through it, evaluate the issue, consider the complexities, and develop an argument with reasons and examples to support your view. An argument task presents a different challenge from issue. It requires you to evaluate an argument according to specific instructions. You need to consider the logical soundness of the argument rather than agree or disagree with the position it presents. These two tasks are complementary in that one requires you to construct your own opinion by taking a position and providing evidence for it. The other requires you to evaluate someone else's position or opinion by assessing its claim and evaluating the evidence mentioned in that argument. We will discuss tips and tricks on how to master in this section in the coming weeks. Let me give you some tips to remember while you take the GRE. Read the question carefully and understand what the question really asks for. Many a times we read a question and assume that it's asking for something, when in fact it might be asking for something completely different. So make sure you read the question and understand what is being asked. There's an on-screen calculator available for the quantitative reasoning sections. Feel free to use the calculator, but don't overuse it. What I mean by that is, there might be some questions that will be faster and easier to solve if you do them yourself. There might not be a need to use the calculator in those cases. So you should know when not to use a calculator. The GRE Revised General Test gives you an option to skip questions that you get stuck answering. So if you're spending way too much time on a reading comprehension and are facing difficult questions, feel free to skip them for the time being. You can always come back and address the difficult ones if there's time left. There's a mark and review feature in the software which lets you mark questions that you would like to revisit as long as there's time remaining for that section. Feel free to use that, but do not spend too much time on it. You can also view a complete list of all the questions in the section that you're working on. It also marks if you've answered each question, and it shows you the question you've marked for review. You can review the questions that you've already answered and change your answers also, as long as there's time remaining for that section. But I would like to stress again, do not waste too much time on this review screen. This is the precious time that you could be spending answering a question. This is time that is deducted from the allotted time for that section. There's something called as distractors, both in the math and the verbal section. In math, these distractors are numbers that you come across while solving a problem. These are numbers when you are halfway done, you see them when you're halfway done, or you see them when you make a careless mistake by, making something that was positive, you make it negative and you get to this number. These are distractors. So distractors. Be aware of them and stay away from them. Similarly, in the verbal section, there are verbal distractors. These are words that sound very similar to words in the question or that relate to an event that was being discussed in the question. These will lure you to themselves, but stay away. Be aware of these distractors and make sure you evaluate all the answer choices before you pick one. Some more tips to remember while taking the GRE. Your score depends on the number of correct answers that you will give in the verbal and quantitative sections. There is no negative marking in the revised GRE test. Therefore, answer every question. Work fast because there is same weightage given to all questions. So you can skip the difficult ones and answer the easy ones. That way you will increase your score. Feel free to browse through the verbal and quantitative sections first. This way, you can get an idea of what questions are under your realm, which ones are doable, and which ones are difficult. But don't spend too much time in browsing. For the analytical section, think about the issue, make your own notes, plan, and compose your essay. Make sure to save a few minutes at the end of each section to proofread, to go over and review all your answers. You will be given scratch paper. If you run out, feel free to ask for more. You will get a 10-minute break following the third section and a 1-minute break between the other test sections. These are just some tips some instructions that you should know before you go for the test so they don't come to you as a surprise. Here is a list of resources that you can use while you prepare for the GRE. There's the ETS website, which gives a lot of sample questions and tests, Barron's GRE book, Kaplan Premier with practice tests, the Manhattan Prep, and Achievers League USA also has their own question bank that you can log in and practice. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions with regards to resources. Finally, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at this address and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you all for your attention and good luck.